Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Going into part 2 of today's episode of RollPlay Nebula Jazz. Quinn, let's get caught up. Let's get caught up, my dear friend.
Super Quinn.
You have reobtained the scepter. You and your new friend, the Baron Marduk. What's the plan? What's your jam here? What's happening?
Well, I literally just got back on the ship.
Yes.
And we're in the hangar bay, so I imagine now that I have the scepter, I am going to try and find a way out of this ship.
Yeah. So here's the scene, right? So you're back on the ship, and as we discussed last time, the Commodore, he was a load bearing boss, and so the ship is coming apart.
Of course.
There's chunks of ship falling everywhere. Everyone else on the ship is more concerned with their own. It's the Death Star at the end of Return of the Jedi. Nobody notices you or the fact that you're dragging Darth Vader's body down the hallway. They're just really busy trying to get to shuttles, trying to get off the ship, trying to escape. And so a lizard man and an Agaran war chief do not draw enough attention. Now the scepter, while you yet clutch it in your hand, it is inert. It is not granting to you its mighty power, but you have possession over it. And when you return to the ship, Marduk looks at you somewhat in awe of the martial prowess. He may also just be like really turned on. It's hard to tell with them. And he looks at you and kind of sneers, so you can see his fangs. And he says, "You fought well." It's like alarms going off in the background.
Quinn looks at him and he's like, "It doesn't matter how I fought. We still have to get off this damn ship." And he presses like a few buttons on a communications device, and then proceeds to sit down.
Okay. So yeah, he looks at you and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you sitting? There are yet so many more to kill." And he looks around. There's all these people kind of scrambling.
Quinn just sits there and he's like, "I'm waiting."
Waiting for what?
And Quinn doesn't reply. He just sits there, eyes closed, holding the scepter.
And he snarls and looks around and he says, "If you're not going to murder anybody, then give me the scepter. I'll do it."
And Quinn
he puts out a pale hand, trembling.
Quinn just gives him a stare, just stares at him, doesn't really respond, just looks at him like, "Bitch, please."
Okay. There's a moment here. There's a little bit of a stare off, right? So if you want to try to intimidate him or put him in his place, you'll have to roll.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would I roll for that though? For intimidation.
I mean, it sounds like forceful. It's the force of your personality, right?
Okay.
So you're trying to forcefully overcome his resistance to you sitting there and not using the scepter to murder everybody.
Sure.
Let's say difficulty is 4.
Oof.
Okay, so you got 2, but that's okay. If you still get your full complement of fate points. Do you want to invoke an aspect?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the Blick Snort because I literally just kicked a man through space, so I feel like that counts for something.
Yeah, he can feel the coruscating power of your forceful emotions. What I guess if you're going to use the Blick Snort, what emotion is Quinn? What is the if he were a lizard man, he could smell your emotion on the air. But what is it?
Here's the thing, though. It's the culmination of the experience and all the emotions that makes me so calm. I realize that this is a situation that I have no control over what's about to happen next. I just have to wait. So rather than get worked up, I'm just gonna take it down.
Right. So you're the eye of the storm. You're letting the emotions pass through you. Nice. Okay. So he reaches out and you give him this perfectly calm yet surrounded by chaos look. Then he closes his fist and retracts his arm and he says "Even in a creature as hideous as you, I recognize the battle trance." And he nods sternly and he says, "We will have a discussion about the scepter later." And I think that he turns as if to punctuate the conversation. There's an officer running by, and he just grabs him and throws him on the ground. And there's the Wilhelm as the guy gets like smashed into the ground. And he looks at you and he folds his arms over his chest. He's got like a huge like Glenn Danzig bodybuilder chest. He just kind of like
of course
nods to you.
Quinn looks at him and just like thinks, just like it looks like he's deep, like he has a momentary thought of like, oh wait, and looks back at him and is like, you probably should find a way to get off the ship.
And he looks at you as if you can see him processing. He's a little slow. He's not a smart dude. And he's like, wait, I should. Are you not coming with me?
He's like, no, we're going our separate ways now.
He looks at the scepter and shakes his head. He says, I cannot leave the scepter behind. You cannot understand its significance to my people.
Quinn doesn't really react emotionally, but he's like, you're gonna have to.
Oh shit. So he says, we lost it once before. I will not lose it again. And he takes a step back and kind of like gets into like a I'm gonna fight you now stance. And he says, let the scepter decide who is worthy. Like tosses his hair over his shoulder.
How do you? I'll fight this guy, but how do you roll for something amazing to happen? How do you roll for like a next level amazing thing to happen? Like, where's my Deus Ex Machina here? Like, how do I make this happen? I want something amazing to happen right now.
You tell me what it is, and then we'll figure out what the roll is.
But if I tell you what it is, it spoils how incredibly entertaining it will be.
Well, you can. I trust you, Jesse. So let's have you roll a stat. I think it'd be clever. Like if you're trying to invoke a thing that you've already planned for. Like if we're just gonna imagine that you've already like had plans for something. Yeah. So we'll have you roll for clever. Now, since you don't want to tell me what it is, I can't tell you how difficult it's going to be, but I will trust you to choose an appropriate difficulty. This is a big stretch here. I'm going to just let you GM yourself for a minute.
I desperately just want to do this because I think it'll be fun.
All right. I mean, a good average difficulty is like, what's your careful? Or clever? What's your clever?
My clever's 1. So I'm already behind
Yeah. All right. So we'll call it 3 because then it's like your roll. If you roll averagely, you'll have to spend a point. But yeah, we'll call it difficulty 3 clever and go ahead and just.
If he wants something amazing, it has to be better than 3.
I mean, 3 is like an average difficulty. We'll work back from the most amazing thing. Jesse's gonna tell me what happens, and I'd be like, how about that? Except we'll rein it in if it's too crazy.
All right.
I trust you, Jesse.
I think
it's
5.
I
think if you get a 5, you can go mega crazy.
Here's the thing: I will dump all my points in to make it happen anyway. I want this to happen because it's gonna be great. Okay, rolling. I'll take that 3 plus because for you, Sam. Depending on it, if I need to, I will bump it up.
I mean, the bigger the roll, the more fanciful I'm gonna let you be.
He won't be able to say no if you make it bigger.
All right, so I'll dump 1 and 2 to make it a 5 as well.
Okay. All right. So what aspect are you going to invoke for this?
The aspect. Oh God. The aspect I'm going to invoke will be former space hacker jacker.
Ah. Okay. All right.
All right. So let me GM for you for a minute. The Quinn sits there and he's very patient and he's waiting to hear the like comm device deactivated start pinging a little bit, and Baron is getting very anxious. He wants to know why he needs to leave, like what's going to happen. Quinn's just like, you really should go. I have a ride coming to pick me up. And I'm like, there's only room for 1. And the guy gets like very feisty and angry. And he's like, well, you need to give me that scepter if I'm going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a lot of posturing. They only know how to fight their way out of situations. Like this is his holy grail. Yep.
Right. And Quinn just like does a sigh. And then from the hangar deck entrance, the piranha droid from earlier zooms through and like cuts in between the two of them. And sort of like knocks Marduk back a little bit. And on it is, of course, one mask ready for Quinn. And Quinn jumps on that bad boy. He's like, bye, bitch. And then Piranha droid's out.
Just rides the piranha bike
Rides
out
the Piranha Bot out
into
of the ship.
space.
Into space, where, ready for this? Our old ship is waiting, hidden behind an asteroid, piloted by human Dave the human. That's what I want to happen.
So we cut to that's great. I'm all about it. So we cut to the asteroid, and coming out of the asteroid's shadow, we see he's wearing like a Grateful Dead t-shirt. He's just sitting at the console, and he's got his little headset on, and he's like, Quinn, buddy, I got you. Ready to go. And he like floats the ship out of the asteroid field as you fly towards it, big blue streak.
You can see there's like panels missing off the ship as well. Like it's pretty much junked. Yeah.
Yeah. And back on the ship, we see Baron Marduk drop to his knees as the ship starts to blow up around him, and he's just like, "Damn you, Quinn!" Headcanon on this is that if we could cast him, it would be Glenn Danzig from the mid '90s. And he's
also,
just like.
Also headcanon that now that you've pissed him off so much, he's desperately in love with you.
Oh yeah, totally, of course.
One of the many evil exes,
Yeah.
He loves you desperately for your betrayal and this horrible violence you committed against him. So if he survives, you are
It's just the Agaran way.
You're in a rough state. Yes, it's the way that Agarans work. It's amazing that they're even alive as a species.
How did they even breed?
I don't know.
It's incredible.
Yeah. They don't breed like biologically. There's no period. They just have sex and then die horribly, and then from their corpses a new Agaran is born. Which is weird because there's like half of them every generation. They're dwindling. But anyway,
because from two Agarans, only one appears. That's why. So the population slowly gets smaller.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they need to kill sex other species so that they dwindle their
kill
ways.
Sex.
There are two words that don't translate well into English. Kill sex and murder rousal.
Right.
Yeah, important parts of the Agaran culture.
Right.
But Dave the human is there to save you as you fly back to the ship with the scepter. And I think that we see you. We do that cut where like you fly in, and then it cuts to the cockpit as you walk up, taking the mask off, like coming in, and he looks over you, and he's like, "Where to, lizard bro?"
Can we just state for the fact that in my mind, I imagine Dave the human is some sort of like cross between Jonah Ray and Paul F. Tompkins, like some sort of like, just like this weird man that's just a silly dude.
I want him to just be Seth Rogen.
I'll take that too. Yeah. I prefer him to be Jonah Hill. That would make me happy.
Jonah Hill.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah, like a slightly like kind of like stonery, or like he wears sandals all the time and like sweatpants, and
Sandals
definitely.
with socks.
Yeah.
I like that we've started casting characters.
Oh yeah.
Rest in peace, Michael Cera.
One-handed magician Michael Cera.
No,
very helpful.
Quinn looks at him and says, "We've got to take this back to the people it belongs to." And they set a course for where the original meetup was going to happen between where they said they were going to. I'm not sure who was actually going to be there totally, but it was going to be Thuja and our quasi princess, and then whoever they were meeting. I imagine the rest of her people? Question mark.
Yeah, like you can go if you want to take it back to the people it belongs to. You'd want to go to the
homeworld,
the shards of Agara. Yeah, like where the homeworld got blown up.
Yeah, I mean, wherever they originally said they were going to go meet, I can't remember what the actual discussion was during when we were first on the ship, but wherever they said the initial like meetup was going to be, that's where we're going to head. In the hopes that we can get there and like people will still be there and we can be like, "Hey, hi, whoops, I made a mistake."
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So you, he sets a course. And Dave gives you a like. He looks over and he's like, "All right, man, buckle up." And then punches it, and you disappear into hyperspace. And so we cut back to I guess we cut back to Eugene. So Eugene, you're in your office, and you know you have. Do you have like a secretary or what's your situation? Because I'm every time I imagine every time that I imagine you, I mean Dwayne is your like bodyguard. He's your Huel from Better Call Saul. But I like every time I imagine you, my brain goes into like weird sci-fi film noir like detective's office, right? Like smoky. We talked about like the blinds and like you know, some muted Chinatown like trumpet soundtrack.
Her secretary is like a 4-eyed, 3-boobed version of Janine from the Ghostbusters, or his secretary.
Yeah,
like perfect. Oh dear.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't imagine myself with a secretary.
Yeah. Okay, so you just do your own.
You're your own.
Yeah.
You're like, hello, Eugene's office. You're your own secretary.
Yes, that's absolutely the canon now. I do again a Better Call Saul and pretend to be my own secretary.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, Dwayne is standing guard as usual, and you're just kind of opening the office for business that day. Dwayne's like hanging his little hat on the coat rack. And,
there's like paperwork everywhere that I'll literally never do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that we see you getting into your desk, and there's a knock at the door. You hear this like kind of not frantic but like kind of aggressive like knock at the door.
Okay, I nod to Dwayne. It's cool to open it.
Yeah, so Dwayne reaches out with one of his Rocky Boulder hands and somehow opens the door. Gravity, I guess. So he opens the door, and
magnets.
You see 3 kind of tough-looking humanoids come in. They have kind of a bebop and rock steady quality to them. Like they look very vaguely animalistic. They're all big and tough and have kind of like, you know, punk looking armor on. They're like NPCs from a Fallout game or something, but alien. And the 3 of them come in into the office, and Dwayne gives you a look like I got this, boss. If you want me to fight these guys, I'll do it. He's ready.
I go, gentlemen, what can I do for you?
And the 3 of them walk up to the desk, and the one in the front, and he's got like those big wide like kind of 80s looking cyberpunk like sunglasses, like chrome, so you can see yourself in them. And he's got a big like nose ring with a chain over to his ear. Like these are just like punk NPCs.
Classic.
Yeah. And he walks up and he slams a photo on the table with his like 3-fingered clawed hand. He slams it down. And he slides it towards you.
What is it? What's on there? Tell me, Adam. Tell me everything.
It's face down, so you have to like turn it over yourself.
God, turn it over like it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
So you reach out and you slowly turn it over. So it's a boudoir photograph of a furry pink marsupial like creature. And so they slam it down, and you look up, and all 3 of them look like a little embarrassed. Like, you know, their cheeks are kind of red, and they're like, oh god, they're like kind of like looking away, like they don't want to look at the photo.
All right. Well,
and
care to explain yourselves?
And the guy says, he's like, the boss wants to talk to you.
Oh, great. Her? She wants to talk to me? Is that what you're saying?
He puts down a piece of paper and slides it over to you, and it's got like an address on it.
I hold up the picture, picture that makes him super embarrassed.
Yeah, and they all kind of like look away, like,
like,
God, we don't want to look at this.
Is this your boss? This one right here?
So when they air this episode of Nebula Jazz on the Wombat Planet, they blur this part out.
Yeah. This is offensive on a couple of different planets.
Yeah, there's several planets in the chastity belt where you're not allowed to watch this episode.
Right.
So you hold it up, and they just kind of like awkwardly like shuffle a little bit, and they're like, oh gosh, don't make us look at that. Come on.
Well, I'm sure she'd be very proud of you. You've all done your job really well. Coming in here looking a little bit intimidating, and then just letting it all fall away the second you see this. Huh?
And yeah, we see like a close up of the guy's face, and then a tentacle holding the photo and just like smush it against his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, come on. Oh.
And then he just, Eugene just like slaps it on the table and goes, "All right, get out of here."
Yeah, and so the three of them leave. They go outside, and yeah, and so now you have this photograph of your former liaison, and yeah, the address. You turn to look at it, and I guess my question is, do you intend to go to this meeting?
No.
No? Okay. Because I was going to say we could do the crossfade where you look down at the address and we fade to the place.
Right. I like look at it and there's a close up. And then when we zoom back out, I'm like looking right at the place. That kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're already there with your like hat and tie on to go meet.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, is that thing? Do you want to go and meet with her, or are you gonna?
No way. That sounds like the worst fucking
sounds
idea
like a huge
ever.
trap. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what do you do? What do you do?
And I go, X's, am I right? And then I crumple up the picture and I throw it away.
Yeah. Yeah. Dwayne gives you a nod, like, "Yep, sure, boss, whatever you say." Yeah. And so we pan over to the trash can. And we see this sad, crumpled up picture of a naked wombat, and then we fade out to space, above the Dead Man's Reef, and we hear the kind of elastic band snapping sound of a ship returning to real space as the Houdini returns from the other world and is in orbit now. So are you still piloting the ship, or have you left it on autopilot, Aurora?
No, I'm piloting it now.
Okay, so I think what we come in on then was you see the ship snap into real space, and we see Aurora sitting in the pilot seat, looking kind of thoughtful, right? We see your reflection in the mirror. We see you like thinking and being like, and then we fade back to the sound of like knocking on the door, and we hear Idina in the other room say, "Hold on a second." You can hear her moving around. And then there's a series of beeps, and then the door slides open, and we see Idina through a cloud of mist, right? The hot shower mist, like, kind of rolls out of the room, and she emerges in it, and she's wearing a towel, but we can't really tell because of all the like, you know, the fogginess, and her hair is hanging down and still wet, and she's maybe like got a towel up there, she's like rubbing it, and you know, she's a little flushed from the heat, and she looks up at you and she's like, "Oh, hi," like drying her hair. What's up?
I sort of like lean against the I can't think of it, the doorway.
The bulkhead.
Yeah,
the door frame.
The door frame. I lean against the door frame, and I sort of like, I'm just staring. I'm not flustered. I'm not like, oh, she might be naked. I'm just like, so. Since no one else seems to be help, we need to get down to the planet, and well, there's Mangasi everywhere, and I was hoping that you had an answer.
She kind of looks at you and it's like, an answer to what?
How are we? Do you have a contact on this planet? Do you have any information? Do you maybe know someone? You know, maybe know anyone down there? And I'm trying to allude, like, I'm trying to, like, see if she actually does know a way to get through this, because if she's keeping tabs, or if they've kept tabs on the Mangasi at all. I mean.
Yeah, she shakes her head and she says, she's like, "Listen, Aurora, I would love to be able to help you, but I've been in near total isolation almost my entire life. I lived on a ship in the shards of Agara for a decade. I mean, you and your friends are some of the first non-Agaran sentients I've ever met. I'm sorry if it's not helpful, but I don't really have a spy network or anything. I barely have any friends."
So you don't know anyone else but the people on this ship, right?
Yeah, and she kind of scowls and she shakes her head and she's like, "Honestly, no. Sorry."
And I just look at her, and I like just trying to see if I can sense anything from her.
Yeah, I mean, so looking at her, you feel a sense of strange familiarity.
In what way?
Like there's just something about her that feels familiar. Like you can't necessarily like place it just by looking at her, but when you look at her, you're like, yeah, there's something about her that you're like, she seems familiar. She says to you, she's like, you know, the Agarans spent a long time trying to protect me, and I appreciate all the hard work that they did. And she like looks around. She's like, you're in the hallway, and she's in the bathroom in a towel. And she's like, you know what? Can we have this conversation in another room? Like, can we go somewhere else and talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, you need clothes anyway. You're right. Let's go to your room, or no, wait, no, this is my shit. Right. Let's go to my room. I might have clothing. You're a little
I think what happens is that we wipe to Aurora's like room on Dango's ship. So set the scene for me here. So she's dressed now. She's wearing like just like a kind of like onesie, like a flight suit. And her hair is still wet, but she's got it braided. And and the two of you are in your room. So what does Aurora's room on Dango's ship look like? Like a room you would take her?
It's pretty bare. There's no pictures. There's nothing hanging on the wall. The only thing that's hanging would be a few places to hang like jackets. She has like 10 of the exact same red dresses that she wore to the event. Plus she has flight suits, and then she has her Michael Jackson red, studded jacket hanging that she hasn't touched since pretty much she left. And she has her bed, and it has white sheets on it with a white blanket. Everything is just bare. It's the bare minimum of what you need. She has one dresser. It has like her undies, her socks, everything in there, and the bottom drawer has like some knickknacks and whatnot.
Okay.
But she really just doesn't have a lot.
Yeah. So the two of you are sitting in this room, and and so she says to you, so she's like, I was raised by the Agarans. They found me as a child and protected me after all the unpleasantness with the Imperium. I've been hunted my whole life. There's a burden in being special. I mean, you understand. And she like puts her hand on your knee.
I like look around awkwardly, just like, what? No, I don't. I'm pretty standard, I guess. Standard issue.
She shakes her head. She's like, no, that's not true, Aurora. You have to see it. What did the Alexatronians tell you?
Oh, that, God, you're right. That's what they told me. I can't lie about it. I'm sorry. I tried. You're right. What they told me a lot. They told me a lot of nothing, actually. They told me I'm special, but then told me nothing about it. I honestly just think that Grandpa's a little controlling. I think he has control issues. When I start to get out of hand, he tries to reel it in. Luckily, this time I shut it off. So I think we're good.
She says to you, where did they tell you were from, Aurora?
Well, I'm from there. I'm just, I'm the newer prototype. They were trying to go for a more realistic version of what the Alexatronians are, I understand. My wiring might be a little different, but I'm no different than them in the end.
She looks at you as though what you're saying makes her sad for you. Like you're saying something that she's like, she shakes her head slightly and looks at you kind of like, oh, I'm sorry for you. Like there's pity in her glance. And she says to you, I want to show you something.
I don't really recognize the pity. I think I don't really understand like why she's looking at me that way. So it makes me feel a little weird. But then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. We don't have a lot of time, by the way. We have to land soon, hopefully, maybe. But
so she puts her hands out. She says, "Give me your hands."
Okay.
So she takes your hands, and she says, "Now I'm only part Mingasi, so I don't know how this is going to work, but my people have there's something special about our DNA, about our genetics. We can store and transfer information through touch. All of what makes us up is contained in their perfected bodies. And sometimes we can show people things. I haven't done it in a long time, so this might be a little bumpy.
But are you gonna hurt me? Is this gonna hurt?
She shakes her head. No, it just might be a little confusing. Close your eyes.
And at first I like squint my eyes. I don't actually close them, and I don't know if she can tell. Like squinting.
So she looks at you. She's like, close them for real.
Oh, fine.
Okay. So you close your eyes, and she places her hands on yours, and they're like cool and soft, and you can feel almost like a little bit of like a tingling in your hands where she touches you.
Yeah.
And I think that you can feel, you don't feel anything at first. I think we just see a close-up shot of Aurora's face, like eyes scrunched closed, like, is it working? What's happening? You're just holding hands with her. And then all of a sudden it's like being underwater and then suddenly like taking a breath, like being pulled up out of the water and being able to breathe. And we see, from your point of view, we see you open your eyes, but instead of being in the room, you're floating in space. And there's this huge, beautiful, like the most beautiful planet you've ever seen. And it's blue and green with these little wisps of white. And it's like, obviously from an audience perspective, it's Earth, but you've never seen it before. But it's like immediately the most beautiful planet you've ever seen. You can feel it in your heart. You can see this floating in space. And then we see all of these shots of like Earth in the 80s. So we see like, some like random small town in America with like a car, like cars driving on the streets, people waving to each other, and like all of these people that look just like you. And you kind of recognize some of this stuff from like the programming that you had as a child, the like kind of Alexatronian raising program. And so you see there's the Earth, and you see all of these people, and you see like we linger on a shot of a woman holding a little baby, like a baby girl in her arms, and we get all these sort of pastoral shots of Earth, and then we see the planet, and then the soundtrack gets ominous, right? A minor chord comes in as one of these big kind of Baroque looking spaceships snaps into the shot and kind of floats, and it casts this dark shadow over the Earth. And you can feel yourself getting like nervous as this happens, until the ship floats over the Earth, and we can hear the hum of some kind of like terrible weapon powering up. And the soundtrack raises to a terrible crescendo as a beam of light lances down from the ship, hits the Earth, and this beautiful marble in space shatters into a billion tiny pieces. And maybe we cut to, like, we see you still in this kind of floating, this starry background. What's Aurora's reaction to this? Like, is there like tears in your eyes, or are you like, what's happening?
Yeah, I'd say as her eyes are closed, like she's like just, it feels like she's no longer in that room. It feels like she doesn't even like know that world right now. Instead, she's totally into this, and you do see her start to cry whenever the ship comes down and starts firing into the planet. And then I guess hopefully the only person that'd be able to hear this was Adina, but she screams out as the Earth gets destroyed.
Right. Yeah.
Like she actually feels it being like it's a part of her. So
yeah, totally. And exactly. And you're suddenly overwhelmed by feelings, right? Like your Alexatronian programming isn't present in this space. And then we cut to a scene on the bridge of the ship, right? We can see, you recognize the Duke Mako kind of hiding at his feet. There's a young boy, a Mingasi boy, who's kind of like, behind his cape, like looking up, and he looks nervous because his uncle is talking to a group of Alexatronians. They're in their kind of like chrome, like war forms. But one of them, you recognize right away as being your grandfather. You recognize as being Saber. And the Duke kind of snaps his fingers and points, and one of the other Mingasi, an officer, comes up with a bundle of cloth, and he hands it to grandfather, who peels the cloth away, and we see a tiny little human baby face. And you recognize, and we all know because of the soundtrack and because we've been watching the show, It's a little baby Aurora.
It's you.
Yeah, it's you as a baby, and you see Duke Mako giving you to the Alaxatronians, and your grandfather looks at you for a second, like just cold robot face, no emotion, and he turns and hands you to another robot who puts you in a plastic box and wheels you away. And then there's a brief conversation that kind of like fades into the background, and we crossfade over to the room on the ship, and Edina takes her hands off of yours, and you can see that she's got like tears on her face as well, and she looks at you, and what does Aurora do or say?
When she looks at me, when I finally open my eyes, all the emotion just sort of drains. All of it just drains all at once. I still have the tears going down my cheeks, but the sadness is no longer like, and I just look at her and I just say, I understand now. And then I drop my hands and I get up and I walk out of the room.
Okay. She says, as you start to leave, she's like, Aurora, wait. And she stands up. Do you hesitate or stop, or you just walk out?
No, I walk out. No, I don't hesitate. I just walk out. I walk out and I walk back to land the ship.
Okay.
I think as you walk out the room, you like collide shoulders with Rex.
Yeah.
Who's like just coming around the corner to tell you guys we're about to land.
Right. Yeah. The two of you bump into each other, and yeah, the soundtrack here is like a quiet minor chord version of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but played like sadly on strings. The two of you bump into each other, and Rex, you see Edina standing in the doorway of the room. Like, obviously something has just happened.
Yeah,
Edina looks upset.
They're both like crying, right?
Well, Edina looks upset, and Aurora looks like stone-faced, but has tears like on her face.
Yeah, Rex just kind of like looks at Edina and then just kind of like puts his hands up. And then he's just like, we're about to land. He's just like really uncomfortable with the situation.
And I turn back and I'm just like, good. And then I just walk towards the bridge.
Damn. Okay.
Rex
cool.
gives Edina like the glance eyes, like, is she okay or is she crazy? Those like
Edina doesn't respond. She turns dramatically and like goes back into the room. You can follow her if you want. You can go and like press it, but she just doesn't know what to say.
No. Rex is good.
Okay, cool. Thuja is like hiding behind a bulkhead, just being like, I don't know what to do with any of these people anymore.
That's how Rex feels.
Yeah, so upset and confused. I wish we could just go back to those earlier times where all I had to do was have sex with you and fight things.
Just on a ship with 3 emotional ladies.
The ship has sailed now. All right, cool. So I feel like I don't know. Does anybody remember what the original the thing to do here? And I don't want to break canon, but the easy thing to do would just be to have Quinn and Dave show up at Dead Man's Reef, to have everybody reconvene there.
Right.
That's not where we're going, though.
But yeah, so you're going. Because very originally, the planet you were referring to, Jesse, was the place you were going to go before Thuja betrayed you. Before Thuja was like, no, we're going to my home planet instead, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what that is or was. Like, I don't think we ever even named it. Yeah, I don't think it was just going to be a place. Oh, you know what? No, that's cool. I can work with this. I know what we're going to do. Okay.
I have an idea.
Okay. Hit me.
No, you can do yours. That's fine.
I mean,
I had this idea, but then
you
came up with one.
I have one.
Oh, I was gonna say that like you just can't go into Agarran territory without like broadcasting beforehand, so that Quinn would have to basically like identify himself to the Agarrans and that he was bringing the scepter, and then that would immediately be told to Thuja, who would then get a call and be like, "Fuck, we gotta go."
Sure. Yeah. So he would be detected entering Agarran space. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's something worthwhile. I think I have an idea though about where. So Quinn, you're headed for the Shards of Agara, right?
If that's the place that we were told that they would be. Truthfully, I don't remember where that was, but that's where I would go in character.
Sure. Okay.
Because that's where I assume people would be.
So I have a thought. So Dave is at the console. Where's Quinn?
Also at the console. We're listening to old tunes. We're jamming. We're jamming to his old Deadhead records.
I was gonna say, yeah. Well, I mean, you said we're jamming, so literally, you're just some Bob Marley on the on the right. Okay, so then we come in on the cockpit of your old ship, and like the emerging from the shower scene before, the cockpit is full of a bluish smoke, and on the console, Dave has made some changes to the way the ship operates. There's like a glass bulb with like a long piece on it, and the whole thing is, and Dave is just like sitting back, and we can hear reggae playing in the background, and and Dave is just kind of like bobbing his head, kind of half awake.
He's like Zoolander Owen Wilson.
Yep. And and so there's this strange earth weed that Dave loves so very much. And he says to you, he kind of leans over and he's like, computer says we're gonna be there in a couple of hours, so we got lots of time to just chill out. And he kind of like looks at you and he's like, you look like a mess, dude.
Quinn looks back and he's like, I'm a lizard man.
And he kind of looks at you, he's like, that's cool, man. I'm down. I love everybody, dude. You're a cool lizard man, Quinn.
Quinn just like shakes his head and sort of like rests on the side of the space glass or whatever the hell is the cockpit's made out of.
Yeah.
Just sort of like lays there and he's like, this is who I have to rely on, this guy.
But you're also getting kind of high.
I'm getting like there's a full like
Contact.
secondary like contact buzz going on right now. Yeah, but I'm just like, yeah.
So the console starts to beep, and there's like a kind of insistent like alarm kind of sound, like it's beeping, not like a full on red alert, but it's like beep beep beep. And the two of you look at it, and he looks at you. What do you do?
Quinn like pops up and looks down at the console and tries to figure out what the actual alert is.
Yeah, so
he like sort of pushes bobbleheads and bongs aside and like wipes away this weird dust fog, whatever like cloud is on the console.
Wave it away.
And tries to see what.
Okay.
What it says.
So you see that there's like just a 0, like a 00 kind of thing across his blinking, like a timer's run out. And he looks at it, and he looks at you, and you look kind of concerned, and he's like, "Oh, it's cool, dude. It's just my toaster pastries." And he gets up and like walks out of the room.
God damn it.
Yeah. So Dave walks out of the room.
Quinn like looks back and goes like, "Toaster pastries?"
And you can hear him in the other room. You can hear like a plate and some like, cutlery rattling. And then there's a much louder, much more insistent alarm as the ship is jacked out of hyperspace. And we see from the outside, we see the ship pop back into space. We get a fast cut out, and you are surrounded by kind of like cut together, dangerous looking kind of spiky pirate ships. There's these like a flotilla of them that has just they've used whatever technology to like pull you out of hyperspace. And so you pop in and you're surrounded by these shit things, and the proximity alarm is going off like crazy. Suddenly the ship has 20 different missile locks on it, and what do you do?
Quinn shouts back to Dave. He's like, "We've got trouble."
And you hear in the other room, Dave's like, "Hang on, man, hang on," and you hear him like rattling around in there.
I gotta butter him.
Quinn's like, "Oh God!" He like turns to the comm. He's like, "Hello."
So you can comms with the ship.
Yes.
There's a bunch of them. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a general communication.
Okay. So yeah, you open a channel, and you hear a familiar voice.
Oh God.
As Captain Slipknot comes on over the comm, and you hear him say, he says, "Ha, not so slippery now, are you, lizard man? We've got you, Quinn. And all I have to do is press one button, and then he pauses, and then you hear him say like, what? But sir, no, Fine. I'm supposed to take you peacefully. And you can hear it's like it hurts him to say that. We're like, he just wants to blow you up right now. And he says, don't put up a fight for your own good.
And Quinn's like you said, I'm slippery. And then he attempts to fly the ship away. I want to dodge my way out. Fuck it. I'm going. Let's get out of here. Let's go.
Okay, you're gonna try to evade
Hell
the
yes.
the
I believe
jacker
in the
fleet.
rolls. I believe in the rolls. I'm once a jacker, always a jacker. I'm gonna jack all over these dudes. Let's do this. Let's do this.
All right,
I'm gonna jack
all right.
the whole fleet.
So,
jack that
I
whole
mean-
fleet.
You are caught in the alpha zone of a jacker field. So this is gonna be some tricky flying.
That's fine.
Um,
I'm a hacker jacker. I think it's safe to say that not only did I come up with a good one-liner to get away from him, but also because I'm doing it in front of all my old friends, I'm flashily doing all of this to overcome stuff. So like,
It is.
give me
it
them
is-
bonus points.
it
Bonus
is- it
points
is
out the
definitely
yin-yang.
flashy. It is definitely flashy. Yep.
yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me about your plan. So you're surrounded by dozens of jacker ships.
Jackers are smart,
Yeah.
but notorious for forgetting about the fact that space has multiple dimensions, and down is one of them. And so they've surrounded us, but we're just
In
gonna
a
go
donut.
Yeah,
Right.
in a donut. We're just gonna go down.
It's a universal weakness of jackers. They forget about the jacker hole, and you can
Yeah.
just gonna try to drop out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jackers only think about jacking. They don't think about the holes. Yeah. We're good.
All right. Okay.
Not
So you can make a we'll oppose this roll. Actually, you know what? We'll set it as an overcome. So you're going to overcome the ambush, and then there might be a chase before you can get to hyperspace. So to overcome the initial ambush, your odds are dramatically stacked against you.
Let's do this.
I'm going to say
Do it.
difficulty is 8 for this.
All right. Okay, 3
All right.
plus 2, that's 5. Then I want to take the fact that I am a jacker and I know how they think, that's a 7. And because I am the destroyer of the Great Library, and when it counts, I can make shit happen. Bump that
Right,
to
so
a 9.
you're used to big monolithic challenges.
Hell yes.
Okay.
Ain't no one gonna stop me today. And we go, pew! We sort of fall through space. And they're like, what? I didn't even know you could do that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So somebody was responsible for filling that area, and they failed at their job. And you drop out of the kind of torus, the donut of ships, and a bunch of jacker ships take chase after you. You're able to break free of the jacker field, and you're making for the edge of space to be able to leap out into hyperspace again. So I think a bunch of them, like a half dozen of these ships, pull out of the field and take chase. And let's have you try to get away from those guys. I'm gonna roll to oppose, but you tell me what you do. What does it look like?
I think no matter what, I'm still flashily doing all of this because I am definitely smack talking my former superior Slipknot about how it's a shame that all of his best men keep leaving and he can't hold on to any of them. This is just another example of what a terrible leader he is. And I'm just shit talking like, boop, boop. Mind you, high as a kite, like literally just a mess.
Right.
Just
Yeah. And
there's a man in the back making toaster strudel or whatever the hell he's doing. I'm up here just like, I imagine he's changed the ship so it has a steering wheel now. Of course.
Yeah. Well, no, there wasn't a steering wheel before, but when you go into chase mode, a steering wheel emerges from the console for you to grab onto. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you succeed, you'll be able to jump back into hyperspace. If you fail, if I beat you, they'll disable your ship enough to pull you in to one of the ships.
Sure.
So here we go. I got I only got a 2. You got a 4. I can tie it up. with my fate point.
Technically, that's a 6 because I'm flashily overcoming.
No, you're attacking, and they're defending. It's not a. It's
That was
not
running away is an attack.
yeah, or they're attacking.
Yeah,
you're
because
defending.
you're
It's
trying
not
to
an
break through
overcome.
their
It's-
defenses.
yeah, it's a combat. You're trying to break through and get free. So I'll tie it up.
Jesse's face.
I don't know that I believe that, but I'll allow it.
Well, overcome is for overcoming static obstacles.
I'll
And,
allow
like-
overcoming a fleet seems like a static obstacle.
Oh no, this
I'll
time
allow it,
they're chasing you, so their
I'll allow
pilot
it.
skill actually matters. All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that.
I'll allow it as the rules are. I'll allow it.
But here's the thing: they
Me
don't
and I
beat.
admit,
They don't beat you. You don't beat them. So I think that the thing here is that you can get into hyperspace, or you can jump into space, but they'll follow you. So you'll buy yourself some time when you arrive where you need to go, but they're on your tail. Because you still escape, you still get what you want, but there's some complication there. Okay. All right. So you just barely escape, right? You managed to get outside of the bubble of gravity that they've created. You pop through it, and the ship takes a bunch of shots from behind. Dave cries out in panic and upset. We maybe see him, stumble the plate. One of his toaster pastries falls on the ground. And then you hop out into hyperspace. And we see we get one of those cuts where we come back to one of the Jacker ships, and we see Captain Slipknot, and he punches the console angrily. We see him stand up, and he's got his Jacker half cape and his eye patch with the scar because you shot him earlier, and he walks. We see him turn with a flourish of his cape, and he walks down this corridor, and on the we can see the ship. The corridor is all kind of broken up and looking like model kit style, and he walks up, and a door opens. And he walks into a room, and it's the bridge of this ship, so we can see all of the windows, and it's kind of like a good contrast to the Baroque ship that we saw before, the Benghazi ship, and there are very far fewer people here, but there is still a central seat, and we don't see who's sitting in it, but we see Slipknot walk up, and he looks at this person in the shadows in this chair, and he shakes his head, and he's like, "I'm sorry, sir. He got away." And the guy in the chair, we just see Dr. Claw style. We just see a robotic hand on the edge of the chair, and we hear the voice, and it's like a smooth kind of baritone, and we hear the voice say "Don't worry, Slipknot, you won't get away." And
it's the Jacker Admiral.
Yeah, and then we just see
Jacker, the rear admiral himself. Oh no.
And we just see the expanse of space as the Jacker fleet begins to jump to give chase to Quinn, and let's take a break there. So stick around. We've got lots more RollPlay Nebula Jazz when we get back. Don't go anywhere.